everybody. Welcome back to another project update. Sorry I didn't get one out to you in the month of May, but it's a little busy. As you can tell from the surprise on my lap here, there's a new addition to the family. This is Belle, and we got her a couple weeks ago and been busy having a dog and not really doing a lot of modeling, but I have actually gotten a lot done down here this month. May was a really slow month. Didn't get a lot done just because of the fact that we were busy renovating the other house. I did get a little bit done in May, but it was actually a super secret project because it's actually a gift for one of my friends. He's now aware of it because he somehow managed to guess what it was that we were giving him. So I can go ahead and share it with you guys now at least. So stay tuned. We're going to get right to that part in a second here. But Belle here is going to need to go back upstairs because she's way too curious. So stay tuned. Alright, so now that the dog is back upstairs and not wreaking havoc down here, which she loves to do, we'll get into everything we've been working on this month, and there sure has been a lot. We'll start with the things that went on last month, which there was a few minor things that I worked on. The main thing, for the most part, was a little bit of work on my GP40. I did finally get a lot of the detail parts on that I needed to finish it up. The only thing left now in order to finish it are the MU hoses. Need to be replaced because there's a bunch missing. So I'm going to go ahead and get that done in the next couple weeks, maybe. We'll see. This has kind of been just like a slow project for me. I haven't really been rushing it by any means, so just been enjoying working on it. I do really like the way this air conditioner worked out. I used a different one than I normally do. This was a die-cast one rather than a plastic mold, and I really like the way that one looks compared to some of the other ones. So that was the main thing I worked on last month for the most part. I did have one new acquisition, and it's also going to be right back out the door because it's that super secret project that I was working on. This is going to be a graduation present for one of my good friends who just graduated high school. And I got a really good deal on it to make it, worthwhile because I wasn't really going to spend a super large amount. But this is it right here. This is a Bachmann version of NS 1066, the New York Central Heritage Unit. I did a ton of custom work to this thing to really, it's pretty much Genesis caliber now in a lot of ways. There's just a few minor detail areas where, you're just not going to get it up to Genesis quality, mostly in the radiator fans and radiator grills, just making those as see-through as they are on a Genesis model. There's just nothing you can do there unless you're going to completely replace those areas, which is just way too time-consuming. But I did a ton of work to this. I believe it's in the intro, so you'll see that it's got LED flashing ditch lights. I shaved off all of the grab irons on the front and the back, and I replaced them with separately applied grab irons, which was a very big task. Other than that, there's not a ton of work cosmetically that I did to it, but there's a lot of work done on the inside as well. The Bachmann decoder that was in this thing has been ripped out, and actually my Erie Heritage unit, number 1068 here, actually became a donor loco for a decoder for this thing. So it still has the original Tsunami decoder, the original Tsunami sound file, the OEM one for the Athearn Genesis units in here. But overall, it turned out pretty amazing. I had a huge headache with track pickups not working properly. It took me probably 4 hours of messing around, and to the point where I finally just gave up, took the entire trucks apart, cleaned the wheels so that they were, completely clean, resoldered because they were just connected with the little tabs, the plastic tabs. They weren't soldered in the connectors. So I just soldered every single connector. So it's all solid connections at this point, and getting way better pickup now than it was. And then I also just went ahead and I added a flat coat to it for a couple of reasons. One, I mean, unfortunately, even though this is a heritage unit, they still they don't have super shiny coats of paint anymore. I mean, they're a few years old at this point, so they're not as new as they once were. And number two, in all honesty, it's to hide any blemishes that that might show up through the custom work. With shaving off those grab irons, the molded on ones, it can get a little difficult to keep your work perfect. And in order to touch it up, you have to go back in with black paint. And when you go back in with that black paint, it looks a little glossier. So at the end, you just put a nice coat of dull coat over it, and it hides everything, blends everything all together, makes it look nice and neat. But, as mentioned there, I did yank the decoder out of the Erie unit. So I had a unit that needed a new decoder. So one of the other units actually ended up donating a decoder to my Erie unit. And that was the Fox Valley Models GP60, which had lock sound in it. I actually ended up sending the decoder out. It's a 21 pin that's in there. I ended up sending the decoder out to my dealer who has a lock programmer. He reprogrammed it with the SD78 sound file, upgraded it to full throttle and everything. So that's all, ready to go. The Fox Valley Models now will have, I had a decoder, a DCC non-sound decoder from my Intermountain Gevo that I pulled out of there and then tossed in here. So this will still have DCC, just no sound. And eventually this thing is going to get flipped, I think. I don't think it's going to stay around on the layout very long. But I just need to get the plow back for it so that I can finish it up and get it sold. But it'll be sold as DCC and non-sound, just because I figured I might as well get my use out of it and keep the decoder for another project. So when I did that, I also went ahead and installed LEDs all throughout. So now the headlights, ditch lights, and all throughout the rear as well are all LEDs. What I ended up doing in order to install that 21 pin board, I was lucky enough to come across a newer run Athearn Genesis DCC ready board, and going forward, I believe all of their locomotives are going to be switched to 21 pins. At least their new SD78 run, the one with the UP Spirit of, the UP Spirit of Union Pacific, had 21 pin boards in it. I was lucky enough to stumble across somebody who ripped the board out and was selling the board on eBay because they did a board style decoder. So I picked that up and I'm using that in this thing now. Everything fit in perfectly. I do also, and the cool thing about it now is I do actually have the option to have flashing front or flashing rear ditch lights on it. Unfortunately, the ditch lights, the LEDs that I use, the cord or the wires just aren't long enough to get up there because they're towards the front of the board. So that might be something I go back in at a later time and modify so that I can have some flashing ditch lights in the back. But that's all for that particular locomotive. And then I do also have one new addition to my locomotive fleet that's going to be permanent, that I'm super excited to show you guys as well. And that is this CN-8 40C. I picked this thing up from a gentleman on one of the Facebook groups. And honestly, I'm really impressed with this thing. It weighs a ton. I did a little bit of custom work in it. I did install KDs, which is, normal for me, and I can't stand the Atlas couplers, so those were gone as quick as I could. And then the other big thing that I did, as you'll know, or some of you may know, the Atlas locomotives, they don't come with ditch lights installed. So I went ahead and installed pilot mount ditch lights with LEDs. I just wired them right into the headlight socket, just because I figured, they don't flash on the Canadian National locomotives, so I might as well just wire them right in, because I actually run it a layout where it's really weird. The wiring, or the layout itself, for some reason, most of the time ditch lights won't work unless you have them wired into the headlight, because headlights work just fine. So I figured I would do it that way, just so that they would work no matter where I am. I'm super excited to run that. I actually also installed ESU lock sound in this. And going forward, I think I'm going to be using ESU lock sound in pretty much all of my locomotives. And it's a disappointing situation, because I feel that I kind of got ripped off by Tsunami, because I had been using their decoders for pretty much everything. But going forward, I don't think I'm going to be. And that's a story for a different time. But I'm super happy with the way this turned out, and super happy to finally get this thing running as soon as I'm able to get some time to run some trains. So that's, I believe, it for this project update. Funny enough, I did actually have another new addition at one point during the month of May. I purchased a Illinois Central covered hopper at a hobby shop in Pittsburgh when I was down there, but I cannot find it anywhere. The freight car is literally just gone missing. So I was going to show that to you guys, but I don't know where it is to show you. So that's going to end it for this month's project update. Thank you guys so much for sticking around and watching it. Certainly appreciate every single view. And I hope that anybody that's new to the channel will subscribe. And anyway, that should be about it. Thanks, guys. Take care.